welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm actually just remaking a tutorial that I made not that long ago, I think around December, but I didn't realize when putting that video out that a lot of people would find it useful. I mean, that was always the thing I was hoping for, but it's kind of been picking up recently, and the more it has picked up, the more I feel bad how bad of a tutorial it was. I was just like talking really slow in that one, not explaining things super well and not showing things super clearly. So I just thought I would try to remake that tutorial so that there is an easy to follow tutorial out there. Anyway, I didn't even say what we're making today. We are making crochet fishnet fingerless gloves. They are very easy to make. They're also super fast to make and very beginner friendly. They could look something like this or something like this. These ones are a little longer, but if you take it off, you can see that we're basically just making a rectangle. So that's why it's super easy. So even if you have very little crochet experience, this tutorial will be easy to follow, unlike the last one that I made. Alright, so first are the supplies. I'm going to be using this yarn right here. I think I lost the label, but I'm like 90% sure that it's just this yarn in a different color. So I'm using Loops and Threads Soft and Shiny. It's a size 4 medium yarn and it calls for a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, but I know that in my last tutorial I used a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook, so I'm going to do that again. I'm going to use a 5 millimeter crochet hook. Then of course you need your scissors and a yarn needle for weaving in ends. And also it might be helpful to have like a pen and paper to write down any important notes like the counts of your chains or anything, or you could just write that on your phone. And as always, or at least what I'm trying to do now, is incorporate timestamps because I know I tend to talk a lot, so if you want to skip ahead to a different part of the tutorial, there you go. And I also tried to write a written tutorial in the description below if you learn better that way, but I don't write written tutorials, so I don't know how to write it in crochet terms, and if it's confusing, I'm sorry. Anyway, back to the video tutorial. Alright, so you have your 5 millimeter crochet hook and your yarn. We're going to start off by making a slip knot. So how you do that is you'll hold your yarn with your left hand and kind of make a backward C like this, and then you just hold both of those ends, and then with your right hand you'll put your index finger inside that loop, twist it up, and then kind of like pry it open with your fingers, and then just grab the top thread and pull that through. So it should make a knot, and you're left with something that looks like this. And then you'll put your crochet hook into that hole and then pull both ends to tighten. And that is a slip knot. Alright, now we're gonna make a foundation chain, which is when you just like make a bunch of chains right next to each other. And this foundation chain is going to be the length of our glove from like the top of where we want it to be to the bottom. So if you remember the gloves that I just showed you, like the white one and then the brown ones that I made, for the white one, I think that was about like 27 long, and the brown one was about 33 long. And I want to make this one like right in the middle, so I'm going to make this one 30 chains long. However many chains you choose, just make sure that it's a multiple of 3, just for the sake of this pattern, because we have to like measure things out so that everything aligns perfectly. So make sure it's a multiple of 3, so like 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on. 27 is already a little bit short, so I don't think I would recommend making it shorter than 27. So for mine, I think I'm going to do 30. To make a chain, you will hold your yarn with your left hand, yarn over like so, and then pull through. And that's one chain. Yarn over, pull through, that's 2 chains. If you ever lose track of your count, just know that each chain looks like a V. So this looks like a V, this looks like a V, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I just made 10. We don't count like where the hoop or where the hook is inserted into, but everything else is a chain. So this is 10 chains. And now I'm just going to continue until I get to 30. Once we finish the foundation chain, we're going to add 2 more chains. So these are some numbers that are probably important to remember. So write down 30 and then write down that you added 2, or if you didn't do 30, then write down whatever number that you started with. Then after we've added the 2 chains, we're going to start crocheting along this chain that we just made, going the other way. So first we're going to make a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So like not right there, but in that space where you see more of an opening. To make a single crochet, we insert our hook into the space, yarn over, and then pull it out of that space, yarn over, and then pull through the 2 loops on our hook. And that was a single crochet. And then we're going to chain up 5, and then we're going to make another single crochet, and where we will make it is 3 chains over on the foundation chain. So you see how like this hole right here is kind of being stretched open? That is where the 5 chains we just made are connected. So we're not counting that one because that's the one that we're already in. So count 3 over. 1, 2, 3, and we will make our next single crochet in that space. So insert our hook, yarn over, pull it out, yarn over, and pull through both loops on the hook. And then we'll just repeat that again. So chain up 5, and then make a single crochet 3 chains down. So this is where our chains are connected. We won't count that one, but we'll count 3 chains over. 1, 2, 3, into this hole right here. And then we'll just continue doing the same thing, chaining up 5 and then making a single crochet into the space 3 chains down until we get to the very end. And because we counted like our foundation chain precisely, we should 100% end at the very last chain of the foundation chain. Okay, I just finished making the last single crochet into the very first chain from our foundation chain. It should look a little something like this. It doesn't look like much right now, but we're gonna go ahead and start the second row. So we're essentially doing the same thing. So first we're gonna turn our work so that we could work alongside those little like scallop shapes that we just made, going the other way now. So we're gonna start by chaining up 5 again. And we're still gonna continue to connect it back to our work with a single crochet, but this time we're gonna connect it in the middle of this group of chains. So if you remember, each of these little scallops is like 5 chains, so that means the middle is the 3rd one. It might be confusing to tell like what is a chain from this direction, but if you flip it over, then you could see that typical V shape that I was talking about earlier. And so just count the 3rd V. This is the 1st one, 2nd one, and 3rd one. If you're wondering why this one doesn't count as a chain even though it looks like a V, well, you can just see that like there's other things connected to it, and the chains are the ones that are standing alone. So again, it's 1, 2, 3. That's where we're going to connect our single crochet. And then we're going to do that again, so chain up 5, and the next single crochet that we'll make is into that next scallop shape from the row below, into the middle 3rd chain. So if you're confused, you can always flip it and look for the 3rd V. This is the 1st one, 2nd one, and 3rd one. And then you're just going to continue doing the same thing until you've made your last single crochet into this last little like scallop shape from the row below. Alright, so I'm almost done with this row. I just need to make the last single crochet. This one is a little bit more confusing, so what I tend to do is just count the 3rd one from like this end instead. So this is 1, 2, 3. So right here. And now you've finished 2 rows of the little scallop shapes. So the rest of the pattern is pretty easy because we've pretty much like already done what we have to do for the bulk of this pattern. So we're going to turn our work again, and we're going to do the exact same thing that we've been doing. So chain up 5, and then make a single crochet into that middle chain from the group of chains from the row below. So 1, 2, 3. And then we'll continue with that same pattern, going along and making single crochets in these little like groups of chains until we get to the very last one, which is going to be like this one, which kind of looks like it's on the side right now, but that's going to be the last one that we make a single crochet into. I reached the end of this row, and now, like I said earlier, the last single crochet that we'll make will be into this little shape that looks like it's on the side. And there we have finished the 3rd row. So we're going to turn our work around again. I'm going to show you just like a little bit more of the pattern, and then I'll leave you to finish all the rows on your own. So once we turn our work, we will chain up 5, and as we've been doing, single crochet into that middle chain. Alright, so I'm just going to stop right here. It doesn't look like much right now, but if you kind of stretch it out, you can see that we have our straight foundation chain row, I guess. And then we have the first row of the scallops, then the second row, and then the third. And right now I'm just starting the 4th. So in my other gloves that I've made, I have done 9 of these scalloped rows. So that's not including the foundation chain row. So I'm gonna come back when I finish 9 of these rows. If you have a body shape similar to mine, you'll probably also have 9 rows, but if your like wrists and like this area of your body, if it's much smaller or much bigger, you might have a different count. But I'm gonna do 9, and I will see you once I finish them. Alright, so now we've done 9 of the scalloped rows, and I'm just gonna count it once again in case the counting of the rows is a little bit confusing. So don't mind like the first straight foundation row. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And I know it doesn't look really straight right now, but that's just because like the scalloped parts obviously are longer than the foundation chain we made. So now we're going to make a row that will line this side up with this side so that it's not this awkward trapezoid shape. So once we're done with all 9 rows, or however many you're making, we're going to turn our work, and then we're going to chain up 4. And now we're basically going to connect it back to the row below, but this time, instead of using single crochets, we're going to use slip stitches. So it's still going to be the same thing. We're going to do it in the middle chain, which is the 3rd chain. But instead of doing a single crochet, we're going to do a slip stitch. And to do a slip stitch, you insert your hook into the space, and then yarn over and pull out, and then just pull through the rest of the loops on your hook. So that is a slip stitch. And then we're going to chain up 2, and then make another slip stitch into the middle chain from this scallop. So insert our hook, yarn over, pull out, and pull through the rest of the loops on the hook. I say the rest of the loops, I know there's only one, but sometimes when you're making slip stitches, there's like more than one loop on your hook, and whenever you do a slip stitch, you're just gonna pull through all of the loops on your hook. And then for the rest of them, we're just gonna continue chaining up 2, and then making a slip stitch into the middle of the next group of chains. Chain up 2, and make a slip stitch, chain up 2, and make a slip stitch. As you can already see, this is beginning to look a little bit more straight, just like how the foundation chain looks. And if anyone's interested in like the explanation, we're basically just trying to replicate this on this side, but obviously since we're not starting with a foundation chain, it's not going to be exactly the same. And if you remember, I started by making a chain of 30 and then I added 2 more, so that's 32. Basically, we're making 32 stitches to connect everything together. So you know how we started with 4 chains? So that's like 4 stitches, and then the slip stitch, the first one that we made, that's the 5th stitch. Then we did 2 more chains, which is 6, 7. The next slip stitch was stitch 8. And then if you just continue counting like that, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all the way to the very end, you should end up with the initial amount of chains that you started with. So again, I started with 30 plus 2, which is 32, so I should end with 32. It's okay if you don't really understand what I'm counting, but I know there's some people out there like me who really like to understand their crochet work. They like to kind of wrap their heads around like the math of it because it just makes more sense that way. I'm very much like that. Like when I do my little like circles with crochet, I like to work out the math because then it makes more sense to me and I feel like I actually know what I'm doing. So I just wanted to explain it for those people who might have an easier time understanding what they're doing if they like know what they're doing, I guess. So I just finished doing a slip stitch that counted as like the 17th stitch of this row. So I'm just going to continue counting out loud just so you can like kind of see what I'm talking about. But yeah, again, if you don't understand it, don't worry. So again, we're just going to continue to chain up 2 and then slip stitch into the middle 3rd chain of the next group of chains and continue until the very end. I just did my 17th stitch, so it's 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. I know it's still a bit wonky, but you can see that it's more of like a rectangle shape because this end now lines up with this end. So we're done with the bulk of the pattern. We're almost done with the whole thing. So eventually we're going to connect it like this, and this is going to form like a little pocket where our arm is going to go through. But before we go alongside like the longer end of it, we're first going to finish up this shorter end, because as you can see, it doesn't really look finished or polished. It looks a little funny. So we're going to finish it up by just crocheting a bunch of single crochets along this side, and we're also going to do that later along the other side. So first we will chain up 1, and then if you notice, you can see all the holes along the side. So like this is a hole, this is a hole, there's a bigger hole and a smaller one, a bigger one, a smaller one, bigger, smaller, bigger, and the last one is a smaller one. In each of those holes, we're going to make 2 single crochets. So insert our hook, yarn over and pull out, yarn over, pull through both loops. That's 1 single crochet, and then do it again in the same hole. In, yarn over, out, yarn over, pull through both. And then go on to the next hole, in, yarn over, out, yarn over, pull through both loops, in, yarn over, out, yarn over, pull through both loops. And then just continue in each of the holes, both the bigger ones and the smaller ones, until you get to the end. So I finished making all my single crochets along the top side of this end, and as you can see, it just looks a little bit more polished and uniform and a little less wonky. So once we're done, we're gonna kind of like fold it like inward, I guess, or like fold it on top of itself. because we're soon gonna start crocheting these two sides together. But first we just need to finish up what we're doing. So find the very first single crochet that you just made, like along this end, and then make a slip stitch in it. It should be towards like that other corner, but basically the reason that we're doing this is because if we skip this step, then there's going to be like an awkward gap at the very end of the glove. But when we do this, we're connecting the very end of like one side of the glove with the other side, so we're going to close that awkward gap, and then from there we can just start lining up these two sides of the glove, because we're going to start crocheting it along the longer side. As you can see, it lines up pretty perfectly, like the holes in the front and back lay right on top of each other, which is perfect because we're going to be crocheting into both of the holes at the same time. So we want to just like line it up right now so that it's easy to know where we're going to crochet into. And as you line it up, as you can see, it kind of looks like we're just looking through one layer. So in each of these holes, going through both layers, we're going to make 3 single crochets in each hole. So first chain up 1, and then do 3 single crochets, and then find the next 2 holes and line them up, and then do 3 single crochets in there, and then just continue doing that. We're just going to keep lining up the front and the back so that they're right on top of each other and making 3 single crochets in each one. As you can see, what we're doing is like crocheting the two sides together, which is essentially like stitching it together. And just so you know, we will eventually flip this entire thing inside out. So I know it's looking bulky right now, but that's going to go on the inside of the glove. So continue making 3 single crochets in each hole until you get to the very end. And once you're done doing the last 3 single crochets in the last hole, this is the perfect time to just like take your hook out and try it on. You don't even need to flip it inside out because it's going to fit pretty much the same way whether or not you flip it inside out. But try it on at this stage, because then you could just make sure that like it fits you, and if not, then you can backtrack a little bit and like make either more rows or take out some rows to fit it to how you want it to. And I just wanted to show you all and share what it looks like when it goes over my hand. As you can see, it's really tight, but that's because, you know, we're making a very simple rectangle, and if it fits like over here, which is clearly smaller than my hand, then obviously it's going to be a little tight going over my hand, but that's the way that I prefer. So if you notice that it's a little tight on you as well when you try to put it over your hand, maybe that's what you want if you want a similar fit to how like mine fit. But if you don't really like that, you know, feel free to backtrack a little bit and add one more row and just make it a little bit looser. But as you can see, even though it was tight going over my hand, it fits very snug and kind of perfect right now. So this is the way that I've done it in the past with my white gloves, with my brown gloves, and now with these yellow ones. So I know that this is like the size that I am happy with. Okay, now that you've tried it on and confirmed that it fits you, and if it hasn't, then you've hopefully gone back and redone everything up to this step, we'll just like put it as it was before so we can put our hook back into the project. So we just went along this side, and now we're going to turn it, because now we're going to work along the other end and basically do the same thing that we did on this side. The only difference is it's already connected in a circle, but we're doing the exact same thing. So just like we did on the other side, every hole that's along the border, the big ones as well as these smaller ones, big one, smaller one, we're going to put 2 single crochets in every hole. And you might notice that here is the tail of the yarn from where we started. I like to use this as an opportunity to just weave it in as I go. So basically just like hold it along where you're crocheting, and then you'll tuck it in as you're crocheting around it. So first chain 1, and then do 2 single crochets in every hole, making sure that you're like holding this tail end of the yarn if you want to weave it in as you're going. But if not, you can always just weave it in later as well. And then once you finish the last 2 single crochets, again, we just want to finish by closing up this awkward gap. So find the first single crochet that you did, and I'm pretty sure the first single crochet is like one of these in the middle, because I can see 3 right here and 2 right here, I'm pretty sure. Because like these 3 were from when we were crocheting this side, and then the 2 was from when we were crocheting along this side just now. It really does not have to be perfect. Like, if you end up putting it into the wrong spot, if it's really obvious, you can tell and you'll just fix it, but otherwise it probably won't be obvious, so it doesn't matter that much. Okay, I'm just gonna pick this one. So we'll make a slip stitch. So again, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, and pull through the rest of the loops on your hook. And lastly, to finish off the project, we will chain and pull that through and kind of just keep pulling. Using our scissors, we will cut the rest off. Continue pulling that piece of yarn, and that will make a little knot. So if you weaved in the other end when I was doing it just now, then you can just like cut off all the excess, and then we'll only have to weave in the other end. So using a yarn needle, we will pull that through. And then I just like to weave it into here. I feel like that's the most like unnoticeable spot to put it in. You could do it wherever you want, but I just like to do it in there. I think it's also the easiest because there's all these little stitches to weave the ends in. And then once I weave it in one way, I like to just like go back through the same stitches the other way. But don't go to the very end of your project because then it'll stick out at the end and it'll be extra noticeable. So kind of just stop a little bit before that and then cut the rest off. And last but not least, just turn the whole thing inside out. And when we flip it inside out, that's going to make that seam along the length of our glove a lot less noticeable because it's not bulging out like it did before. And there we have it. That is how you make a crochet fishnet fingerless glove. Obviously this is just for one glove, so to make the other one, just go back and watch the tutorial all over again and make it the exact same way. So hopefully you took notes on how you made yours the first time if you didn't follow mine exactly, because obviously you want to make both of the gloves the same way. Unless your hands are like different sizes, then make it however you need to make it. I'm gonna finish making the other one off camera as I watch Bob's Burgers, and I will see you tomorrow when both of them are done. Hello and good morning. As you can see, I have finished both gloves. I finished the other one last night. It took about an hour. I feel like once you get the hang of this tutorial and you don't have to like constantly watch and pause the video, these gloves take about like 45 minutes to an hour. So they're really easy to pump out quickly, which is great because that means you can make one of each color for all the types of outfits that you have. Anyway though, here they are. They look super cute. What I really enjoy doing is like matching the gloves to the other accessories that I have on. So you can see like I have a yellow bandana, I have a necklace with a lot of yellow like accents in it, and I was gonna do yellow sparkly like eyeliner, but the only reason I didn't is because my one brush that I use already had green on it from yesterday and I didn't want to like wipe that off, so I just decided to go with green since I was also wearing green, but normally I would probably also match this to whatever is on my eyes. Also, as you can see, I like to layer them like under long sleeve tops, like sweaters or jackets, or just long sleeve shirts, but of course they can just be worn and like shown off with a short sleeve shirt. I don't prefer to wear it that way, but I think that it would be cute if that was like your style. I really hope that this tutorial was easy to follow, especially in comparison to my last video that I tried doing that was a tutorial of the same thing. That one was like 30 minutes long and just very confusing, but now that I know that people actually might benefit from watching my tutorials, I actually tried to like show everything super clearly, explain everything in good detail, but not talk too much. Although it kind of feels like that's what I'm doing now. So anyway, yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope that you were able to make yourself a pair of gloves. And if you did, I would really appreciate it if you sent me like pictures of it, because I'm just curious to see if like it works for other people and how they look and how they style it. So DM it to my Instagram. I changed my Instagram handle recently. It's at the end of this video, but it's also, I'll just spell it out right here. It's Ratafruity. Ratafruity. So yeah, send me pictures of your gloves if you want to. Thank you so much once again for watching this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!